Hi everyone, and welcome to our presentation for the 2016 Directors Cup and to a lesser extent the U18 State Cup games, which are going to be played this weekend as well. U18 State Cup, all of those games are at Simplot, but not every game at Simplot is a State Cup game. The U14 to U18 Directors Cup is also at Simplot. So, how do you know the difference? How do you know which game is a State Cup game on your schedule and which game is a Directors Cup game on your schedule? I'll get the PowerPoint going here. So, it's pretty simple actually. When you look at the game number on your schedule, State Cup games will begin with 19 and Directors Cup games will start with 18. There's no really rhyme or reason to those numbers. It's just the way we did it when we imported them into Arbiter. So again, if you're at Simplot, check your game numbers. You can also ask me when you check in at the referee tent prior to your games, is this a Directors Cup game or is this a State Cup game? And I'll let you know. In either case, the procedure is going to be almost identical as far as checking in and things like that. But obviously you need to know which set of local rules of competition to apply to your particular game. So 19 are the first two digits of your game number if it's State Cup, 18 are the first two digits if it's Directors Cup. A few announcements of things you need to be aware of for the tournaments. I will leave this up here for a little bit. You should already have my number certainly in your cell phone or written down someplace that you can carry with you. I will be at Simplot. So please make sure if you have any problems that you have my number available so that you can text me or call me to let me know there's some issue. At Optimus, Steve Schiffer will be filling in for me out there. And this is Steve's cell phone number. So if you are scheduled for games at Optimus, please make sure you have his number and get a hold of him for any questions or any problems on tournament days. We ask that you print your schedule ahead of time. The reason for that is really twofold. First, if you have your schedule available when you're checking in at the referee tent, it speeds up check-in, particularly early in the morning when the line tends to get long. So please do that. Also, you have a reference to make sure you end up at the right field at the right time each day of the tournament. So please print and carry your schedule with you. Print and read the rules of competition. It never fails at any tournament that referees come up to the referee tent and ask to see a copy of the rules. In spite of our plea ahead of the tournament that you please print them out, carry them with you, and that you have read them and thoroughly understand the rules you are going to apply during the tournament. So please take care of this ahead of time. You shouldn't be reading the rules for the first time 5 minutes before kickoff. Okay? Be professional about this. Proper referee dress. Everybody probably saw my email that went out on Sunday about my observations on referee dress that I saw over the weekend. Let's be professional. Let's dress professionally. Let's act professionally during these tournaments. I'm not going to belabor this point, but I will point out one thing. If you are walking around, whether you're doing a game or not doing a game, and you have a referee shirt on, it better be tucked in. Now, if you are just hanging out and you don't have a game, you shouldn't be in your referee shirt. So either change out of it or cover it up. And this is particularly true if you're out watching other games. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay? Optimist is going to be a zoo. There are 160 plus teams entered in this year's Directors Cup. That's up about 25 from last year. Parking will become very limited at Optimus, and so you need to allow plenty of time to make sure you get your parking space and you can get checked in on time and get to your game on time. We'll have more on that in a little bit. Eagle Road between Franklin and Pine, that's down near I-84, will be closed overnight on Friday and Saturday nights and will not reopen until 10 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday mornings. So if you have to drive that stretch of Eagle Road, either coming north to get up to Optimus Fields or perhaps driving south to get on the interstate to go out to Simplot, please plan a detour now so that you know exactly how you're going to get where you need to go and allow extra travel time to reach your destination on time. Now, keep in mind that we do have games on Friday, and things traffic-wise on Eagle Road are a mess on Friday. So please allow plenty of travel time, particularly to get to Optimus on Friday afternoon if you have games at that time. There aren't a whole lot of games, but there are some, and we need to make sure everybody arrives in plenty of time. Directors Cup substitution rules. Please make sure you apply the correct rules for this tournament. These vary from tournament to tournament, and we always have referees that seem to get confused and apply the wrong rules. That's guaranteed to get you yelled at by a lot of different people. So know your rules. The rules for Directors Cup are really simple. Any stoppage of play, you can allow substitutions by either team. Now, use your discretion. If you have a stoppage, say for a foul, and the team that's been fouled wants a quick restart, well, you're not going to stop them and allow a substitution at that point. Be reasonable, and you do have discretion. But any stoppage of play, you can allow a substitution. Okay? Referee check-in. This has become somewhat of a sore issue with various assigners and me in particular. Your check-in is 45 minutes before your first game of the day. There is just no excuse for being late to referee check-in. I've had referees recently come 10 minutes before game time to check in, even though we've gone over this ahead of time. If you are late, a couple of things could happen. One, I may reassign your game to somebody else who is there on time and just hanging out. Second, if you're very late, you can expect I'm going to chew you out. I really am, and I have done it because referees need to be paying attention, acting professionally, and doing the things that are required in a tournament setting. 45 minutes before your first game. The reason we ask you to be there that early is one of the things you have to conduct is a thorough pregame. And that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later here. So you have to have time to do that. And you have to have time to check out team jersey colors and goalkeeper colors so that you know what color your referee team is going to wear. Okay? So please, there is a reason for this. I'm not just being arbitrary. It's important that everybody gets there on time so that we can conduct our affairs as referees properly, timely, and most importantly, get the game started on time. And we'll talk about that also in the future. After your first game, and if you have back-to-back, I should mention, you can check in for multiple back-to-back games at the same time. But after that, the first time you have a break in your schedule, then you're going to have to come back later and check in again for later games during the day. And that's 30 minutes prior to those games. All right? 45 minutes before your first game to check in and 30 minutes prior to subsequent games. If you are playing in the tournament, and then reffing after your game, you must come to the referee tent prior to when you play and check in at that point in time. All right? I hope that makes sense to everybody. It's important because the check-in chart is the pay sheet for tournaments. And if you haven't checked in, you're not going to get paid for the game. And that means checked in before the game takes place. All right? Team rosters for Directors Cup. You'll get a team roster from each coach. It'll have an approved stamp on it of some type, but no player cards. All right, don't be looking for player cards or asking for player cards. If you have the team rosters in your possession, when you have misconduct, you have all the information on the roster that you need to fill out a misconduct report. And if you have red cards, you can fill it out. We'll advise the tournament officials. They'll make sure that that player does not participate in the next game. If you do have misconduct, you do need to come in and fill out misconduct reports in the referee tent. For State Cup, since there's a cumulative yellow card count, it's very important that we get those misconduct reports done as soon as possible after your games. Okay, very important that you start the games on time, particularly at Optimist. These games are crammed into the schedule. There's very little time between games. So if you start your game late, every game after you that day is going to be late. And it's going to create all kinds of havoc of moving referees around, and possibly, the teams playing at the end of the day get mad when they have to sit around and wait for a long time before they're supposed to play. So do everything you can to start every game on time. Of course, you want to end your games on time. And if there are, a tight window on those games, make sure you get the teams off the field and get the next set of teams on the field if you're doing back-to-back games. Directors Cup, there's no stoppage time. So do not have extra time or added time. Do not, if you have injuries, that's too bad. If you have a serious injury, the rules provide administratively the tournament will determine what happens as far as playing that game. But as far as you're concerned, there's no stoppage time unless you're told by a tournament official on a particular game because of an injury or other incident that something else will take place. The semifinals and finals in Directors Cup have no overtime. Those games that, since they need a winner, will go straight to kicks from the mark. So you can look at your schedule and determine if you have a semifinal or a final, and make sure you are brushed up on your kicks from the mark procedures beforehand. We had some of this in the last couple of tournaments, and we had good procedures and we had not so good procedures. So review it if you get a chance. Actually, find the chance. Make sure you've reviewed. All right, those of you who have seen my presentations in the past have a pretty good idea what's coming next. You bet. It's the blue game card problem, and the problem specifically of getting scores turned in incorrectly. When you check in for either Directors Cup or State Cup at the referee tent, of course there will be one at both locations, you will be handed a blue game card similar to this. This is your game report. This is what you turn back in to the referee tent with the properly recorded score of your game. And I say properly recorded score, it has to be correct. And unfortunately, we have a very, very poor track record in Idaho on this issue. Every single tournament, there are incorrect scores turned in. Just for example, the Performance Cup, our last big tournament, we had, just at Taconic where I was, there were at least 5 incorrect scores turned in. This past week, we had the Rush Select Classic. Lasted all week. we had a slew of incorrect scores turned in. After safety, this is probably your most important function as a referee. You're the scorekeeper. You got to get the score right. So there are some things we try to do to help you with that, but it's all about care and attention to detail and checking with your referee crew to make sure you record this correctly on the blue game card. So this is just the top of the card, and you'll notice here that we have a white label in the upper left-hand corner, and this contains all the information you need for your particular game. It has the game number, the date, the time, the field, the level, the teams that are playing, except when we get to semifinals, finals, and consolation games, in which case you will have to go to the tournament board and determine who is playing. And yes, you need to do that before your game, and you need to write those teams down on the white labels so that everyone knows when you turn the score in who scored what. All right. In addition to what's shown here on this particular graphic, we also put in the length of each half. So if there's any question, you can always check the card. Please, when I hand you the card, or Steve hands you the card at the referee tent when you check in, double check the card. Double check that white label to make sure we have handed you the correct card for the game you were assigned to. Every once in a while, we'll get confused, we'll get hurried up, whatever, and a wrong game card may be handed out. So please double check before you leave the tent that you have the correct game card for your particular match. Now, what can you do to make sure you get the score correct, and what can you do to make sure we have a way to go back and double check if questions arise sometime during the tournament? Well, first thing you should do is put in the color jersey, the main color of the jersey for the home team and the away team. And double check the white label, because it tells you which team is which team is home and which team is away, and make sure you have those colors correct and you're not reversing the colors. Next, when the game is over, confer with your referee crew. You may want to confer with the coaches, that's optional. And then put in the final score in big Arabic numbers. Please make sure they are legible. Double check this. Make sure you got home and away correct, you don't have them reversed, and make sure the numbers are correct. Finally, if you have a winner, circle the name of the winner on the white label. Obviously, if you have a draw, you don't have to circle. In fact, you don't circle anything on the white label. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense to everybody, and if not, then shoot me an email and we'll deal with it, or ask at the referee tent. All right, that's just a little something we put together a couple of years ago to remind you of the importance of getting game scores correct. Every game should have a pregame conference with the referee crew. Every game in Directors Cup has a full 3-person crew, so you should be able to do a pregame conference. I know many of you are not used to doing this, and based on what I've seen, even though we've encouraged you to do it, you're still not doing it. USSF actually requires you to do a pregame conference. So we're going to go over a USSF video that talks about some of the things you need to cover in your conference. And this is something you need to be thinking about ahead of time if you are a center referee.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. When working games as part of a referee team, it is important that each official be consistent when applying the laws of the game and managing the behavior of players and coaches. The referee team must also be fully aware of the need to communicate with one another quickly, clearly, and accurately. In order to support these objectives, referees are expected to conduct a pregame conference before every game, regardless of the level of competition or the experience of the officials involved. In general, there are 4 key characteristics that officials should know about the pregame conference. The first is that every pregame conference takes time, and officials must plan to make time for it. This usually means arranging to meet somewhere at or near the field, factoring in the time of kickoff and the other pregame duties the referee team is responsible for. Second, just because officials have worked together in the past, that doesn't mean the pregame conference can be abbreviated. It is obvious that the pregame conference is critical for officials who are unfamiliar with one another, but it is just as important even when officials have been previously assigned to matches together. Third, the pregame conference is meant to be a conversation and not a lecture. Although the referee has the responsibility to lead the conversation and to make final decisions when there are alternatives, all members of the referee team should be involved. They must be willing to ask questions if anything is unclear, and the referee should be prepared to provide workable and understandable answers. And finally, failing to have any pregame conference or having one that is significantly shortened can lead to problems or challenges. The more competitive the match, the more likely it is that the performance of the referee team will suffer. Even when a referee is assigned to a game without assistant referees, there still needs to be a discussion before the game to ensure that any volunteer club linesmen used clearly understand their role under the laws of the game. Before the pregame conference can begin in a meaningful way, the referee must know or find out the experience of the referee team. This should include information about their officiating background, game experience, and comfort level of assignment. This information is important so the referee can plan the pregame conference based on the strengths and weaknesses of the referee team while still focusing on important information specific to the match. At a minimum, U.S. Soccer recommends that referees cover the following topics during the pregame conference: the local rules of competition and any recent changes in the laws of the game, any specific delegation of responsibilities by the referee to the assistant referees, and any non-standard signals or mechanics the referee wants used. Information about the teams, individual players, coaches, standings, etc. And any factors that may potentially affect the game, such as weather conditions, field issues, or time constraints. It is the referee's responsibility to have thought out and planned these topics in advance. This allows for better execution and will help ensure that important information specific to the game and referee team is not overlooked. The pregame conference is meant to be a conversation among professionals and may include sensitive topics that might be misinterpreted or misunderstood by others. Because of this, U.S. Soccer recommends that the conversation not be conducted within the presence of players, coaches, or spectators. Thank you for watching, and please be sure to keep visiting ussoccer.com to view additional referee education resources aimed at providing officials of all levels with information on the laws of the game and advice on practical refereeing.
If you have any questions about conducting a pregame conference, seek out an experienced referee and ask, or you can always send me an email and I will do my best to respond. Finally, Let's not forget sunscreen. I don't want anybody getting sunburn out there, and it happens at every tournament. If you forget your sunscreen, you can always check. I always have some in my referee kit. Please bring a water bottle. Although we usually have water or Gatorade in the referee tent, it's often in the 5-gallon jugs, and you'll have to add it to your own water bottle. So don't forget that. Food. Now the stack stand should be open at Optimus. I'm not sure what the situation is going to be out at Simplot, so I always encourage you to bring some food. We'll also have, I know that we'll have things in the referee tent, bagels and bananas and things like that. But come prepared. And finally, as in every tournament, don't forget to have fun. This is supposed to be fun, and take every opportunity that you have to make it fun, not only for you, but for your referee crew teammates, and for everybody you come into contact with. So that's pretty much it for this edition. If you have any questions that I haven't covered or something that isn't clear, please send me an email or text. All of you should have that information, and we look forward to seeing you out on the pitch. Have a good day.